Bit of a quiet day in the NBA, and we're going to piece together some stuff that kind of came out over the last 24 hours here. We're going to talk about Giannis. We're going to talk about the Bucks, of course, as a result. We're going to talk about the Timberwolves, Donte DiVincenzo, the Knicks, a lot of stuff in regards to that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. My name is Donnie Freeman. I cover the basketball bulletin with Trevor Lane. Make sure you do subscribe as we are trying to push this channel to 40,000 subscribers before the end of the year. That being said, hit that like button. We didn't hit our 700 goal last time I did a solo video, but I'll lower it. 500 is the number. It's free. It takes just a moment and helps us out as well. We appreciate all your support. So the Minnesota Timberwolves have interest in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, well, cool. I mean, who doesn't have interest in Giannis? Like, okay, what do I do with this information? Per Chris Haynes. Now, in all seriousness, Chris had a video that he did with Rachel Nichols earlier today, and he basically said, and I'm serious, he said the Spurs, the Warriors, all the teams we've heard about, the Heat, all these teams are interested in Giannis. But he did say a couple of things that I thought were pretty interesting. So one, he said he probably wants to go to a big market team. And correct me if I'm mistaken, but I vaguely remember Giannis saying something like the European players should all play on big markets or team up on big markets, something like that. I'd have to go back and look it up. But regardless of that specific statement, that's not a surprise. It's been out there for a while that Giannis would want to play in a big market. There's also been the connections to the New York big market teams because of, I guess, the flight that he can take to get back to Greece and stuff like that. So that's always been there. But he also said that he would want to play somewhere where it's sunny. And obviously you could play on either coast and find sun. That's not a surprise. But like, what is he trying to say? Is he saying he should go to Miami? Is he trying to say he should go to, I don't know, an actual Western team like Golden State? Like, what is he trying to imply with that? I do wonder about that overall. But regardless, the Timberwolves being interested is, well, interesting because I think he could be a guy that could put them over the top. You know, we've talked a lot about these different star trades, and the Timberwolves have certainly had their name brought up with other guys like a John Morant and other things like that. There was a brief LaMelo buzz there a couple of weeks ago when the LaMelo stuff really started taking off. But you know, I think Giannis is the piece that could really put them over the top. I think with Ant's shooting now also, you wouldn't have the spacing concerns you would have had a few years ago. Obviously, there's still much more room for development there because Ant isn't even in his prime yet. So I think that could be a scary duo. And when Giannis, starts to descend, Ant will keep ascending, and then that team will be really good for a number of years here if they were able to pull something like that off. And they've also got some other guys that are on that same time frame that could be really good. But the tricky thing is with putting a trade together, I believe you need to match about $54 million in salary, something like that for Giannis. And certainly they could mix in a third, fourth team. You know how that all works. Teams will figure out a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, as the saying goes, and teams will put it together any way possible. But just looking at it, if it were hypothetically a 1-to-1, frankly, I don't know what Milwaukee would want here because there's been some mixed reporting as to whether or not Milwaukee would want to start over and just tear it all down. They don't really have a lot of their assets. There's been some mixed reporting as to whether or not they would want to remain competitive, which I guess maybe is the better choice, right? It's just kind of tricky, like I said, because they don't really have a lot of their stuff. But what I can say is a trade involving the Wolves and getting back the players from the Wolves would most likely be a win, stay competitive now type of move. I had to stop myself because win now ain't it? It's not when you're trading Giannis, right? But stay competitive, right? Not bottom out type deal. Maybe you could get some of these players and then flip them elsewhere. That could be a thing that winds up happening too. But that's obviously something that will take a little bit of time to come to fruition. But with this, maybe you're involving Gobert in a trade. Like he does have his uses for them. He's certainly he started really slow, but he's absolutely been a big part of what they do there. Randall, same deal, huge part of what they do there. But they don't really have other players. Like they're going to have to put together probably one of those big salaries, unless they want to put together a few of the mid-tier ones like Reed, McDaniels, DiVincenzo. I mean, looking at it briefly, that may get you really close to just a flat-out Giannis trade 3-for-1 if you wanted to do that. But you've got a lot of your depth if you do that, right? So I don't think that's the route they would take. And then if you're Milwaukee, again, I'm not sure you'd want those pieces. Maybe you'd want a guy like Rob back or Terrence back to see if you can develop those, and they could be a part of whatever your next iteration looks like. I think there's just a lot of juggling that needs to be done if you were to pull off a Giannis trade overall. And then again, that says nothing about the draft compensation, etc. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right here waiting for you on the other side in just 1 minute.
Ever hear the Sleeper app? Here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. A news feed. This is so important for me. You can get lightning-fast updates on your favorite players and teams. A real-time chat to allow you to engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA seasons. So download the #1 sports app today. Experience it for yourself. When you use promo code Bulletin, you get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. And by the way, they do have a phenomenal promo going on right now as well. Free $20 entry. Go check that out. No deposit required. $20 entry for free. Go check them out. Use the link in the description down below, and that promo code is Bulletin.
See, I told you I'd be here for you. I told you. I just throw that life preserver. We're still here. We're kicking. We're doing it. But in all seriousness, though, they've been a huge help to us. And they track how many of you guys signed up. A lot of you guys have. Obviously, not everyone. But if you decide to, it does help us out as well tremendously. So we appreciate all the support. And we appreciate you for watching the videos and subscribing, as always. We really, really do. Frankly, we don't say it enough. But again, we do in all seriousness. But on the topic of Giannis, maybe he winds up going somewhere else. I'm not really sure. But again, because we're talking about the Wolves, there is a lot to figure out with that. But I've remained saying that I do hope he stays because, like I said, we don't have a lot of guys, not enough star players aside to stay with Rap. But again, it does look a bit grim. It's kind of hard, to say stay there with the expectation that they're not going to be good. And he's in the heart of his prime. Right? He doesn't have a lot of time to wait. He said before he wants to win, and I understand that. And so it's hard to say to stay, right? Because again, they pulled a rabbit out of the hat, waving and stretching Dame, getting Miles Turner, but they don't have any more rabbit stuff. I mean, shoot, maybe they have another one. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like there's anything else really for them to be able to do, right? It just is what it is at this point. So I do think it's likely that he leaves. Now, the thing is, it may be more suited for an offseason acquisition for one of these teams. And the reason why is because these teams have so much more flexibility with roster space, cap space, players coming off deals. Maybe there's a draft pick involved that they can't trade, but they can draft who you want and then trade that player to you. There's just so much more flexibility. And that says nothing for trying to integrate a high minute, high usage player like Giannis, who I've said before also I think requires a very specific team around him. He needs the utmost space to really get to accomplish what he wants to do. So you need time to build the right roster around him and whatever star you have. And in this case, obviously that'd be Ant. It's a lot to kind of figure out, especially also on the fly. But if a team, again, if there's a will, there's a way. If they want to get it done, they'll try to get it done. And I think that's a good problem to have, right? Above all else, that's a good problem to have. Now, on Donte DiVincenzo, I thought this was kind of crazy because this is a ridiculous Photoshop. Like whoever made this, if you're listening to the podcast version, the Knicks outfit on DiVincenzo, wow, that's kind of crazy, man. Like that's great. League sources tell Clutch Points that the Knicks have had exploratory discussions with two Western Conference teams about potential trades with New Orleans Pelicans guard Jose Alvarado and Minnesota Timberwolves guard Donte DiVincenzo at the center of various proposals. Now, in all seriousness, they had to get rid of him to get that deal done, right? I remember back then the Wolves were really, really interested in getting DiVincenzo back. They viewed him as a big part of their core, which tells me they probably don't want to trade him. I guess if, again, they're getting Giannis, then it is what it is. But they wanted to really pair him with Ant, and he's been big for them, especially with the decline of Conley this season, right? So they had to get rid of him, but the Villanova boys over there, they fit perfectly. He knows how to play in New York. He had some really big games. That's a perfect spot for him. They also could use more guard depth, in my opinion, on that team, which is why they're also linked to Alvarado as well, who would also fit really good. Alvarado's cool. Personally, I would target a bigger guard if I'm the Knicks. just because that's more, in my opinion, where the NBA is trying to go. They want to have more like 6'4" and up guys out there, not so much smaller guards. But Alvarado does his job really well. He's pesky, annoying. He just does what he does, man. And he's continued to improve. So I wouldn't be mad at them acquiring him either. But again, more guard depth is a plus for the Knicks. I just, again, think it's interesting that they're targeting a player that they decided to trade away. But again, for obvious reasons, they had to get that done at the time if they really were serious about getting Cat. So in the report here, the Pelicans are off to a 4-22 start with 7th overall pick Jeremiah Fears getting comfortable as a starter and offseason acquisition Jordan Poole leading the bench. Once Murray returns from the torn Achilles that has sidelined him thus far, Alvarado might be too luxurious a 4th-string guard for a team governorship. So yeah, there's kind of a lot there. And I do think they're making the right decision, putting the ball in Fears' hands, seeing what they can do with him, Queen, etc. Right underneath our noses, the Pelicans may have two big guys for their upcoming future, which means maybe they could retool around some of the pieces like Zion, but they also could just pivot away from all those guys and just say, hey, we got a couple guys we really, really like, and we're going to go from there, right? But yeah, that makes a lot of sense as to why they may want to move him. But he's only making $4.5 million this season, and that wouldn't be that hard for any other team to acquire. That's another piece to this too, is when these players are making, like DiVincenzo, he's making 12. That's not a lot, not hard to do either, but it's just so much easier to absorb a $4 million salary, right? Especially depending on a per team basis where you are in relation to the aprons and all that stuff in the cap. So overall, though, that is, I think, pretty interesting. Why would they move DiVincenzo here? New York's interest in a reunion with the Villanova-educated playoff hero dates back to last season, where the team had some internal discussion about reacquiring DiVincenzo. Bringing the three-point specialist back to Madison Square Garden, where he had a career year, could make sense for both sides. The Wolves, however, would need to agree to any trade bringing the Wildcats back together. One source familiar with the situation told Clutch Points that Minnesota sent New York's front office several trade proposals, but that both sides did not come close to any agreement. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. The Wolves are said to have interest in the protected first-round pick the Knicks are owed by the Wizards, according to league sources. That pick is protected if it ends up being any of the draft's first 8 selections. However, the daunting second apron has made assets like these increasingly desirable as teams look for any way possible to duck severe tax penalties. And yes, that has led to draft picks just in general and these players being cost-controlled being extremely valuable. Like, they've always had a lot of value, but they're more valuable than ever because of the aprons. Now, the Knicks are best off waiting about 2 weeks to make any trades for similar reasons. Per Knicks film school Jeremy Cohen, whether they make any moves or not comes down to their front office, led by team president Leon Rose. Amid a 17-7 start to the season, New York is in no immediate rush to strike a deal or make a star appear out of thin air. If they think a trade is necessary for a playoff push, though, they still have some assets left to work with. Any changes will have to come before February 5th deadline. So he basically just said that the Wolves, they've got a lot of salary, which they do, right? So that would be why they would be interested in potentially making that move and bringing back, again, a cost-controlled asset, a draft pick, etc., that could be really good for them. And I think lost in all of this is that the Wolves are on this, I don't want to say 2 timeline thing, but on this win now thing where they've got their main stars, 24? And it's like 24, 25. Their main stars young, very young. So they still have a very long runway, and they're already an extremely expensive team. I believe they were the most expensive team last year, or certainly one of them. And they have these guys that are older that aren't going to be here in 3-4 years. And so I think they've got to consider that too. And getting back assets that they can develop in the wings over the next few years and then see that come to fruition a few years from now would be a smart move, right? But as long as it means not pulling back, right? Because this team is very good. They've been in the Western Conference Finals several times. They are very good. They're right there, right? So I think if you add the right pieces, you could do it, which is why I said earlier in the video, obviously getting a megastar like a Giannis would be exactly what they need to put them over the hump. Speaking of which, if you've made it this far, one thing we need is your subscription to push us over the hump. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that thumbs up, and have an awesome day. We'll see you in the next one.